We demand that they come forward and make a statement and participate in finding a meaningful way forward.
Tonight, the latest in the criminal investigation of Manitoba Hydro employees and RCMP officers.
Under the circumstances, this would be an act of remarkable cultural insensitivity.
How a 2,000-year-old arrowhead could help protect some traditional territory from clear-cutting.
They have this ignorance. Where did they get it? They got it from what they've learned, from a lack of proper information in the education system, from these age-old stereotypes that go back, forever.
And we get the perspective of the director of the much-debated series, First Contact. Good evening. Thanks for joining me on APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. The preliminary hearing for Braden Bushby started this week in Thunder Bay. He was charged after an Indigenous woman was killed while walking down the street in the winter of 2016. Willow Fiddler has an update.
Braden Bushby is charged with second-degree murder in connection with the death of Barbara Kentner. Kentner suffered serious injuries when she was struck with a trailer hitch as she walked down a Thunder Bay street in January of 2017. Bushby was charged with aggravated assault, but that was upgraded to second-degree murder when Kentner died from those injuries in July of 2017. This week's proceedings are a preliminary hearing to determine if there's enough evidence for a full trial. There is a publication ban in effect, so we can't broadcast any details from the court proceedings. But what we do know is the court heard testimony from the 3 other people who were in the vehicle with Bushby. Bushby did not testify. The hearing has been adjourned until next month. The judge will then take some time to decide whether Bushby goes to trial. For APTN National News, I'm Willow Fiddler in Thunder Bay.
Independent investigators have been called in to look into historical criminal allegations by Manitoba Hydro employees, their contractors, and RCMP officers. The announcement comes a month after bombshell allegations were made public. Dennis Ward has reaction.
Manitoba's Independent Investigations Unit will be looking into any historical criminal allegations that involve RCMP officers in the Gillam area. Some of those allegations were made public in a report in August, and they include accusations of assault and sexual abuse by the RCMP in northern Manitoba. The Manitoba RCMP has also announced the Ontario Provincial Police will investigate any historical criminal allegations that involve Manitoba Hydro employees or contractors. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Arlen Dumas welcomes the news.
It's going to ensure that there's meaningful accountability, some transparency, and to bring some real responsibility as to how the RCMP and ourselves will move together in the future.
Allegations continue to come forward involving hydro projects currently underway. Dumas says the province needs to be more involved.
We insist that the minister address. She's been very silent on these issues. The minister's office has been very silent on these issues, and we demand that they come forward and make a statement and participate in finding a meaningful way forward.
The Grand Chief for Northern Manitoba First Nations today echoed earlier calls for the province to call a commission of inquiry into the allegations of racism, discrimination, harassment, and sexual violence experienced by Indigenous peoples near hydroelectric projects in northern Manitoba. Dennis Ward, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We want to hear what you think. Here's how to continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. The first summit on Jordan's Principle took place in Winnipeg this week. The principle was put in place in 2007 to, in theory, ensure special needs children on reserve have access to services they need and don't get caught in jurisdictional tug-of-wars over whether the provinces or feds pay. Nearly 1,000 people spent 2 days sharing stories of navigating the system. What was clear is that families struggle to get wheelchairs, beds, and other health services. While the motion supporting Jordan's principle passed in 2007, it was determined the federal government has inadequately implemented it. The Assembly of First Nations hosted the summit to highlight the struggles.
We've seen that there was a definite need for the information given the difficulties that families have had to navigate trying to apply for Jordan's Principle and that. And just basically for myself on the ground across this country, I've heard from families time and time again and the frustrations that they've shared, in their personal stories.
The family of 16-year-old Noah Buffalo Jackson shared their story. Noah was born with cerebral palsy and has to use a wheelchair. The family spent years fighting with their band, the province, and the federal government. Brittany Hobson caught up with them at the summit.
We're here at the Jordan Principles Summit, and I'm joined by the Buffalo Jackson family who have traveled from Alberta. We have Carolyn, Noah, and Rick. Thank you guys for joining us today. I guess, can you start by talking a little bit about Noah?
Okay, Noah is 16. He has severe cerebral palsy. His doctor said if on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being normal and 5 being catastrophic, he's a 4. So he will be dependent all of his life.
I guess, can you talk a little bit about what it's been like navigating the system and using Jordan's Principle?
Well, at first I would have to ask what system, because when it comes to kids like Noah, there really isn't one. And what happened with Jordan and his family and what happened with ours and our experience, there shouldn't need to be a Jordan's Principle. Our kids should just get what other children get, but they don't. We've had the door slammed in our faces so many times when we were just accessing basic things like wheelchairs and equipment for rehab and medication. And so there really isn't a system. And that's the problem. Our choices were put him in care, move off reserve, so away from our home, away from our family, away from our community, away from our people and our culture and our land. So that was another choice. And another choice would have been, well, just to keep him at home because there was no transportation for him. And had we done that, what would have happened? Child welfare would have come in and taken him from us. All we ever wanted was for Noah to have the ability to ride a bus like other kids. That's all we wanted. And we kept getting denied and doors slammed in our faces. And when Noah did get to ride the bus, he was so happy. Just something as simple as riding a bus, something other people take for granted, he loved. It made him happy. It made him feel like, a normal kid.
I'm glad that the principle is being recognized and being implemented, but I know that it's not as broad coverage it doesn't have as good coverage as it should. It doesn't. You can't convince me it does, because our people are all over the place, all over. Those that are healthy will be out on the land. Those that, unfortunately, that are like our son here, handicapped, they'll be in a center without their parents, or they'll be with their grandparents, or their, part of their extended family. And my heart goes out to those people. It just frustrates me.
It's a pleasure meeting you guys, and thank you so much. We're going to send it back to the studio.
Washed out rail line critical to the lives of nearly 30,000 people from First Nations and communities in northern Manitoba could be repaired by winter. And the communities most affected will now own 50% of that rail line, the Port of Churchill and oil distribution facilities at the port. The federal government is providing $117 million for the Arctic Gateway Group. The group, which also includes several Indigenous communities, Fairfax Financial Holdings, and AGT Limited, took over operations on August 31st, over a year after the line was damaged by flooding. The former owner, Omnitrax, refused to fix the line, citing high costs of repair. Months of legal disputes followed. Repairs to the line have already begun in an effort to restore the rail service before winter.
It has actually interfered in people's lives. It's interfered in people's livelihoods. You know, it's impacted development in the north. It's impacted people's housing projects. It's impacted everybody's medical travel. It's such a huge. It has been a negative. Had negative impacts on all of our communities up north, and you know, here we are with this opportunity to truly make a legacy on changing all of that.
It's time for a quick break, but first here's tomorrow's weather forecast.
Hunting, fishing, and trapping were your only means of income, and throughout the years it's taken a drastic decline.
You're not supposed to be touring around.
We speak to community members in northern Manitoba. They shared their stories on how the hydro development is affecting their livelihood. Coming soon to APTN National News.
To the east coast, we have got 28 lots of sunshine in Fredericton, 27s in Charlottetown. Inukjuak is 4, La Grande River 16 and some rain. Happy Valley Goose Bay 15 and rain. Chibougamau 20 and some rain. Saguenay hot 30 degrees over there. Windsor and Sarnia are in sunshine and 27. Same with Toronto, 29 in the capital. Big Trout Lake some rain and 10. Kapuskasing 15 and rain. 9 and rain in Pucktawagan. 12 and sunny in Norway House. Dauphin's mix of sun and cloud and 14. Barons River and Princess Harbour both 15 in sunshine. 12 in rain in Saskatoon. 16 in rain in Regina. And we've got Meadow Lake and with 6 in rain. Same with La Ronge. Buffalo Nair is a little warmer at 7 degrees and rain. Hello and welcome back. A recent find of artifacts dating back 2,000 years is giving hope to a group of people trying to save a piece of land from clear cutting. Our reporter Willow Fiddler brings us this story.
This could save Faribault Peninsula. This could save our future.
This 2,000-year-old quartz arrowhead was discovered recently on Faribault Peninsula, a prosperous area on the traditional territories of Miigwesi-Ziigaigin, also known as Eagle Lake in northwestern Ontario. A new planning process is underway by the Dryden Forest Management Company. Their harvesting license is up for renewal in 2021. Patrick Kavanaugh is a band councillor for Miigwesi-Ziigaigin First Nation.
That has potential to give them license to put a logging road onto the peninsula. So under the circumstances, this would be an act of remarkable cultural insensitivity.
So this is Faribault. No cabins, no docks, no structures.
Dale McKenzie is the chair of the Faribault Peninsula Coalition, a group of people who want the area protected from clear cutting. She grew up looking at this piece of land. Her father started operating tourist camps here in the 1930s.
This is all sensitive, that's what they've called it.
This isthmus is an access point to the peninsula and Eagle Lake. It's where the coalition started digging for artifacts this summer.
We know it's been used for over 2,000 years. It's a very natural place for people to have come back and forth across the lake because it's quite protected.
Ellen Glidden is the archaeologist in charge. She's showing these grade 5 and 6 students from Miigwesi-Ziigaigin School how to dig for artifacts. She was on the dig when they found the artifacts in June.
We did 81 test pits on the portage path, both ends and some in the middle. We didn't find anything.
She credits Dale McKenzie with finding the evidence they need.
She was in a test pit and turned over that turf layer, so there was a complete white quartz projectile point on black soil, so it was very difficult to miss.
They also discovered pieces of pottery. Glidden said the artifacts date back to the Laurel and Middle Woodland periods, which is about 200 BC to 1700 AD. The two sites are now registered with the province, which offers them some protection. The coalition, which includes representatives from the First Nation, calls the finds promising. They hope it's enough to save it from clear cutting.
We're looking for permanent protection of Faribault Peninsula.
Dryden Forest Management Company said they are aware of the artifacts and other values found by naturalists on the isthmus over the years.
And they found rare orchids. They found Canadian warbler that were nesting right on the isthmus. Prairie onion, which is very unusual here.
Kavanaugh said they want the provincial government to recognize the importance of keeping the Faribault protected.
I kind of felt a connection to it from our ancestors. I really did. When even just by looking at the pictures, like our ancestors were here, and then
it's a connection he wants to ensure for future generations. Cale Jourdain said there's a freedom to living in their traditional territory.
Like, I used to live in Thunder Bay, and whenever we wanted to play outside, we would have to have one of our parents watch us. But here in Migizi, we don't have to. We can pretty much do whatever we want.
The artifacts will remain under the care of Migizi-Zagaigan, and public consultations for the Dryden Forest Management Plan are expected to start this fall. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Migizi-Zagaigan First Nation.
Holy, look at all this. Look at
Well, we need to take another short break, but when I come back, I sit down with the director of the popular show, First Contact. But here's the rest of tomorrow's weather. To northern Alberta we go. We've got high level and Fort Chip is 6 and sunny. 5 and some snow in Edmonton. 5 and some rain in Red Deer. 14s for Campbell River, Tofino, and Victoria, and rain in those communities. 14 and sunshine in Sandspit. 10 and some rain in Smithers. Gorgeous and sunny in Dawson City, and 12. 10 with mostly sunshine in Whitehorse. 9 in Wrigley and sunshine. Fort Simpson is 8 with some sunshine. Tuck is in at 2, and Nuvik is 6. Sunshine. Cambridge Bay -2. Baker Lake 2 in snow. Same with Chesterfield and Whale Cove. Resolute's in at -4 and snow. Goyhaven is 0 and some rain. And Iqaluit 1 and rain. With First Contact wrapping up a hugely successful series, I had Newman Films' Jeff Newman, who directed the series, pop in earlier this week to chat about its success. Jeff, I'm so happy you could join us. What did you hope to accomplish with this series?
Well, you know, we wanted to approach, you know, ignorant views and Canada's perception towards Indigenous people in a unique way that, you know, quite frankly would reach the audience that we're specifically after. We want to reach people that have views that a lot of ignorance and that might not seek out or look for ways to kind of change those views or challenge those views. So we felt that this would be a good way to reach those people.
And there's been no shortage of finding people wanting to participate, to take these ignorant or stereotypical views of Indigenous people, broadcast them for a national television audience. Were you surprised that there was so many people willing to put themselves out there like this?
Yeah, we did have a lot of applicants. I mean, to be fair, they didn't know specifically exactly what we were looking for. I mean, they knew that we were looking for Canadians with really strong opinions that were willing to travel the country. But certainly in terms of the pool that we had, when we started asking questions of how they felt about Indigenous people, how they felt about Indigenous culture, we still had a large pool of people to choose from, unfortunately. But hopefully, again, through this program, that we can reach that audience to help them, look at Indigenous people in a whole new way.
What's your response to the feedback that you've heard? I mean, the buzz was crazy leading up to this, and it's continued as the series is unfolding on APTN. The feedback that you've heard, what do you say to it?
It's been overwhelming. So much strong, supportive, feedback from people from all walks of life, Indigenous, non-Indigenous, different age range, different parts of the country, people saying it's about time. Finally, someone's taking this on and having this open dialogue and this open conversation and sharing these stories and giving voice to these communities, to people in communities that don't get an opportunity to really say, this is my story, this is where I come from, this is my view, and you need to hear this. So it's been an incredible experience and really rewarding and meaningful to be able to see those the support that we've had so far.
So you had said there's been overwhelmingly positive feedback for sure. We've seen some stuff too that there's some people saying, you know, why are we taking these stereotypical ignorant people and taking them on a little bit of a field trip through Turtle Island and give them a chance to learn? We Indigenous people don't owe them explanations. It's not for our people to open our communities and try to fix what's wrong with these people. We've seen a little bit of that on Twitter, on Facebook. You know, what do you say to people who would have criticisms like that?
You know, that's totally valid to say that. I will say I've seen some of those comments as well. Most of them are from people that haven't seen the show. They're reacting to the trailer. So I would really encourage those that might have those feelings to watch the series before you make up your mind. But you know, to say that we forcing Indigenous people to have to share their stories and sort of prove prove themselves yet again. You know, the communities and the people that we worked with were completely on board what we were doing. They saw the vision that we had, and they very much welcomed it. And I think that there is a sense that we want to have this opportunity. We want to be able to share. We would love to sit down with these folks and be able to tell them our stories, because, you know, for the Six, they have this ignorance. Where did they get it? They got it from what they've learned, from a lack of proper information in the education system, from these age-old stereotypes that go back, you know, forever. So it's like saying, well, finally, let's give us the chance to give this information and see what they do with it. So really, that's what this show is all about. And you know, in terms of the format, you know, it is, and it's an exciting format. And while some might see it as, like you said, a field trip for these Six, it certainly wasn't a field trip. I mean, it was a long, grueling, 28-day intensive journey. You know, I think, again, stick around for all 3 episodes and see what the final result is.
Well, now let's talk about a season 2. Can we say that there's a season 2?
Yeah, I think the secret's out. We're doing a season 2.
Okay, I want to know what can we expect with season 2?
It's you know, very similar in terms of there's a 3-part format that we're doing. It has a lot of some similarities, but a lot of differences as well, mainly because of the 6 people are quite different. And they bring a lot in terms of different sensibilities, sensitivities, different forms of ignorance, different approach to things. So that really makes things quite different. We're going to many different locations, lots of different communities, lots of different perspectives, and a different form of how these groups communicate. And there's also some more current issues that we're taking on that will be very, very interesting, and I'm sure will be very provocative as well.
Thank you so much for joining me, Jeff.
Thank you so much.
If you missed First Contact, you can watch all 3 episodes on APTN this Sunday evening. Check your local listings for times. The series will also be available for viewing online this Monday. Well, that is all the news I have for you tonight. I'm Melissa Ridgen. You have a great weekend.